The Honorable Frederick Douglass said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." That is exactly what this sister has been doing. Tiffney Laing, an educator, inventor, entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Bevy and Dave. Founded in 2015, Bevy and Dave is an award-winning educational company fostering a positive self-identity in African children. Through educational toys, games, books, short animation films, and other learning tools, they are changing the narrative of global African history, heritage, and culture, and building leaders through play. Bevy and Dave was a finalist for the 2018 Toy of the Year Award, rookie category by the Toy Association, and is a recipient of the 2018 Creative Child Magazine Product of the Year Award and winner of the 2018 Family Choice Award. I had the chance and privilege to speak with her about various things. One of the things we spoke about was what made her become the entrepreneur we know today, what inspired her from her family to other factors.
Well, growing up, so I've lived on the West Coast and the East Coast. So growing up, my elementary years was California, and my middle school through high school years was Buffalo, New York. And during that time, obviously, I'm able to see the differences in culture across these different states. And I have to say that part of is what obviously formed my worldview, having that experience. But growing up in a family that is very much so spiritual and very much so into education and spending a lot of time in the libraries as a child and being exposed to so many things. But I would say one of the biggest influencers is not just the spiritual upbringing of being raised in a family where my grandfather is a bishop and my uncles are bishops, but the fact that my, particularly my great uncle John and my great uncle Paul. So, great uncle Paul had a huge influence on me in regards to entrepreneurship because he owned several restaurants um, in, in Buffalo, New York. And I used to work at one of those restaurants during high school. I was able to observe how he managed a business. My great uncle John is the creator of the original Buffalo chicken wings, and he also had restaurants. And so I was able to really be influenced by all of this, okay? Because now what you're seeing, and this is very important keys, education all around me. I'm seeing, I'm learning, right? Part of my education is learning that you could do anything, okay? And that entrepreneurship is something that we should be doing, right? It's part of our inheritance, our heritage as a people. And then my great uncle John, he died. He didn't want to just stop at owning stuff. He wanted to contribute to the youth, and so he wanted to create um, like an apprenticeship, so to speak, where the youth can learn how to run a restaurant business, how to make the original buffalo chicken wings, and how that whole process works. So this is part of my understanding and learning growing up. And so when you talk about the spiritual component of my upbringing, the component of traveling and seeing different, the East Coast, the West Coast, um, and really seeing the Black community involved, particularly in Buffalo. The Black community was very much so involved in the youth and helping us to connect with our African identity. That was when I was introduced to Kwanzaa. It was when I was introduced to Juneteenth, and so many things, and had the opportunity to learn more about us as a people that wasn't, you know, just focused on like slavery and oppression, but it was much bigger than that because the community truly was involved. They really lived the "it takes a village" African proverb. They really lived that. And that's all a part of what makes me who I am.
But something in her education pursuit made her realize something very, very important.
In undergrad, I studied mass media communications. And so I got a
Wow.
bachelor's at Wilberforce University, which is a HBCU, the first private HBCU, by the way, and purchased by African Americans and the AME Church. Also, I got my master's at Frostburg State University in Maryland. Um, that was something that I knew I wanted to do because I knew eventually I will be in business. I knew at one point that I would be an entrepreneur at some point. So I decided to get a master's in business. And then later on, I decided to work on a doctorate. And so when I did that, that was interesting because I pursued it at Shenandoah University, and when I did that, as I was doing the work, like doing the research on what was interesting to me, which was about how our students learn and understand African American history, or just African history in general. I wanted to prove that it hinders um, our love of self. Okay, that it hinders our confidence and stuff like that. Because I really felt that that was true. So I would do some research among students, and my hypothesis was definitely true. But as I continued to do, um, literacy research, literacy research where I would look at other people's papers, it was so much that had already been done on this topic already. Okay. My literary review really showed me that there was no need to continue doing research, that so many people before me had already discovered that Black people, right, achieve higher when they are connected to their history, heritage, and culture. When they literally study Black history, when children study Black history, that their academics skyrocketed. This is proof. This is things that have already been shown. So I decided, well, there's no need for me to continue to work on something that has already been done. I need to work on solutions. No more research, but work on solutions.
Bevy and Dave has a litany of products. So, how did she start the process of formulating these fun, educative materials for black children?
So it took me about 8 months to figure out exactly what I was supposed to do with it. But the key is that I understood that the doctorate program was a distraction. Okay. Um, I thought I was going to change the world through that, but once I realized I wasn't, because the research had already been done and I knew I needed to come up with a solution, you have to take time to think. We literally need time to think and process, and that's what I needed. So it took 8 months after I left the program to really figure it out. And what helped me to get there was the fact that, God had blessed me where, I was a new mom. And it was through observing her that I was able to see that children learn through play. Um,
Mm.
I was reminded of human development, okay, and how we learn. I can see through her that, okay, when things are fun, when they have time to play, that's how it sparks their interest, and that's how the learning process begins to be more in tune, right? When it's colorful, when it's fun. I was able to um, take out time to learn, what would be helpful by thinking also about the little children in my lives, like, my nephews and so forth. So it was a process. But once I finally understood it, I decided, okay, so how is this going to play out? I know it now needs to be toys. I know it needs to be books. Um, how am I going to go about doing this? And the first product that I settled on was when I realized that I needed to put as much in this first product as I could. I was like, I want them to get as much as possible that they can get out of it, and to really feel and experience the the dynamicness of their ancestors. Okay, so that's when I created the History Makers puzzle box set, which is 6 sides of play, and it has puzzles, it has the alphabet, it has words that associate with the alphabet that are focused on leadership and Black history. So, for example, A is for appreciation, B is for Benjamin Banneker, C is for commitment, and so forth, right? And it also has the history on the other sides of the block. So when they're learned about Benjamin Banneker, they learn how he helped to design Washington, D.C., the nation's capital of the United States. So these are things that children will learn. And that's what I wanted. I wanted them to get as much possible. And that particular product, which was the first one, went on to become an award winning um, learning tool. So it was definitely an experience. It was gratifying. It was something that when I did it, I knew that this was it, that this is what I'm supposed to do. And I got up at 3 a.m. every morning, literally every day, to work on it. And it was a joy. And the rest is history. Um, so that was the first product. It was launched in 2016, at the end of 2016, October. After that, every year after that, we would come out with a new product. So we have the Inventors Legacy Series, which focuses on obviously inventors. And that first particular product, I wanted children to kind of see what was around them every day that they can relate to, so that when they're in the car with their parents, if they have that puzzle with them, they could actually, engage with their parent, and they can learn about, okay, who created, right, the three-way traffic signal, who made the grocery industry possible by creating, mobile refrigeration, right, who made the electric train possible, right, because you're going to see that, who made these the gas mask possible when you are passing by the firehouse, right? So we have so many things that we've contributed, but the children don't realize that things that they interact with all the time is created by their ancestor. When they're eating sweets and enjoying dessert, well, who made that sugar processing system possible, that it became affordable for all of us to use? Who literally made it a industry that revolutionized how sugar was processed? Well, that's by once again a Black man, right? So at the end of the day, we have so many things around us, things that we use, and sometimes people just assume that someone else created it, and not a person of African ancestry. So we have to change that. So that's why for me, I wanted to make sure that the ancestors were literally on the toys where you could physically see their faces, okay? And they're done in a way that is fun. Additionally, obviously, we have other puzzles, and they're all made out of wood. By the way, they're high quality products, very beautiful, beautifully designed. We also have books, and the one book that I want to mention, the history of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, is basically Bevy and Dave's Adventures Through History. So yeah, so we have different things for the children. We have animation, we have books, we have games, we have wooden toys, puzzles, and we also have other things like stickers and stuff like that. But we're coming out with more products, and the whole point is to create um, learning tools that are fun for preschool to elementary age children to be connected to global African history. Okay, that is what it's for. That is what we are trying to achieve.
So, between the toys and the books and other products, which is the most popular? Like, which one have you realized that people are running to the most?
Funny enough, people run to the very first product, the History Makers Puzzle Black Set. And I think it's because, based on surveys, because it has there's so much you can do with that one product. Okay. Like I said, it literally grows with the child from the age of 3, where you could just play with the blocks, right? And look at the colors and learn from that, to as you graduate to now you're learning the alphabet and then learning words and then being able to understand context by learning what that history and the leadership means on it, and then graduating to now being able to put the puzzles together and being able to then read the book that comes with it. So in addition to that, it's an award-winning product. So that particular product is by far the bestseller.
Yes. So here's the History Makers Puzzle. Like I said, this is this is the first product I ever came out with, the flagship. And I'm gonna give you an example of how this works. So with this, A is no longer for Apple. A is for appreciation. Ooh. Okay. B is for Benjamin Banneker. C is for commitment. When we talk about helping children to understand self-leadership, when they pick up the letter G, they're going to turn it over, they're going to associate it with the word gift. And then they're going to learn that their talents are a special gift and they should be used to contribute their best to society. So I'm trying to encourage children to see that leadership is already in them, just as it was in my ancestors. And I want to inspire them through those stories. Yeah. Even if they're interested in a different industry. Oh my.
So if a child goes to school, like right now here in the USA, and you're just learning the math, the science, the English, the arts, and you're not learning, and you're learning history, but through the lens of oppression and slavery, then you're not prepared to solve your own problems, because you're not learning what happened in the first place, and you're not learning or given the tools on how to solve it, right? So we're not learning the financial literacy of how to be sufficient when it comes to our financing and management within the community. We are not learning, right, anything about the continent of Africa. So if you're a child and you live in the continent of Africa and you're studying, you should be studying how to manage the resources. You should be studying what makes this particular industry of diamonds so important, and how do we then, expand upon that so that we can, grow the industry on our terms, right? A child will then need to be learning the things that our ancestors understood well, because remember, the reason why we can't figure out why the great city of Zimbabwe, why the pyramids still can't, the reason why we can't figure out how they were created is because that means that means we don't have the intelligence that they had. They understood how to utilize the resources on their land. So we need to teach our children how to manage the resources on their land, and not be consumers of it. Not be consumers of it, but be managers of it and producers. Okay? To manage. And then that right there would get the children excited, because see, remember, when you're educating children, they need to get excited about who they are and their heritage. They need to get excited about the possibilities. So if you train a child to just be a consumer, which currently our education system does, then you're not preparing them to be leaders. You're not preparing them to be producers and entrepreneurs. Okay, so all of the things that that we desire as a people, they're in our hands. We are capable. We have the knowledge, but we have to remember that our experience is unique. So our approach to our education has to be unique.
And that's why I really like your work, because it's not just business. You see, the problem with us is that we're always money oriented. I know business is all about money, but the way you are is that you care about the mission more, and that's that's why I'm so astonished by your work, is because the mission is the most important thing when it comes to Bevy and Dave, and so that's why I am so astonished. I'm so impressed. So Tiffany, we can talk for 3 hours. Okay, but I'd like us to just kind of reach an ending. But before we do, just tell us where you see Bevy and Dave in the future and how Bevy and Dave can be supported.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. So there are many things, right, that I have in store for Bevy and Dave where I see in the future. But I would say the thing that's most important to me right now, the next step to me is that we expand the line of learning tools, and also that we begin to now make a footprint where we begin to manufacture our own products in the continent of Africa, because we have to have power over our own education. If we don't have power over our own education, then we will continue to stay in bondage. It's through our education that we will be free, right? Because our education, as I talked about, it's about also restoring our minds and restructuring our mindset, loving ourselves, knowing who we are, and valuing who we are as a people.
Please support Bevy and Dave by going to the website bevyanddave.com. So many good products over there, including books, puzzles, stickers, and so much more that are not only fun for black children, but will make them learn a lot from black history. And that will formulate a foundation of these children being assets in our race.